Common problems with model steam engines, Part 2. Looking at the other side of the engine, it appears to have exactly the same problem. Removing the cylinders and pistons to check the O-rings, I decide to replace them. I remachine the cylinder cover registers to create more space in the cylinders. Looking at the other side of the engine, I don't mean looking at the dark side, I mean looking at the side of the engine that's not been removed from the plinth. And the first thing that I'm checking is whether or not the piston on this side also hits the rear cylinder cover. And it doesn't appear to, but only just. I can feel some resistance when the piston rod gets to the end of its stroke. And also, in common with the other side of the engine, I can see that someone has attempted to remedy this by enlarging the hole in the small end, so it's a bit of a rattle fit on the shaft. And as you can both see and hear, the engine runs okay on one side only. By the way, the piece of light coloured wood in the centre of the picture towards the right is a piece of plywood that I put down to stop the eccentric rod from marking the surface of the plinth. In an attempt to find out where most of the knocking's coming from, I'm currently lubricating the moving parts with steam oil. As standard superheater steam oil is extremely viscous, it sticks to the parts and stops them from rattling about. So after I'd oiled up the engine, I turned on the compressed air and gave the flywheel a push. And even though it seems to run okay, it runs quite a lot like a lot of the steam engines I see on YouTube. It sounds a little bit like a pneumatic drill. That's because the valve events are not correct. It's got late admission at one end and early admission at the other end. The early admission needs to take place at both ends of the stroke. That way the air or steam cushions the piston and sends it back down the cylinder in the opposite direction. In an attempt to further investigate the knocking, I screwed the piston rod into the crosshead firmly because it was unscrewed a couple of turns. And in the same way as in the previous episode, I use a short piece of brass banding to stop the pliers from marking the piston rod. And by turning the engine over manually, I can now feel that the piston is actually touching the rear cover at the end of its stroke. So what I did was return the piston rod to the way it was before I tightened it up with the pliers. And before I move into the next section of the video, I must caution everyone, do not do this. I am doing it. I'm not recommending that anyone else who's watching the video ever does it. What I'm doing is holding the valve in the correct position, sort of helping the valve along. This is really bothering me. The veneer has come away at one end of the plinth. Not only has it come away like this, it's come away in like a bubble in the middle. I think it's probably stuck with contact adhesive and it's just let go. The easiest way to remove veneer like this is not to use a knife. Do not use a sharp knife. Sometimes it removes like this by just tapping a steel ruler along it. Very carefully, very gently. But it depends how well it's stuck. Now that was okay, but it's not so good going in the other direction. As you can see, the veneer is very well stuck in this area. Not in the middle where the big bubble is. So I'm now committed to removing it. And here I'm cutting off the old piece of veneer with my knife. It's very, very thin veneer. It's not something I would use. If I veneer anything, I tend to use thicker wood, because steam engines generate quite a lot of oil, heat and water, none of which is good for veneer. So once I removed this last piece of veneer that was firmly stuck to the block, I used a piece of coarse sandpaper and it now looks like this. Then I used some polyurethane varnish applied with a cloth to seal the grain, because I didn't want to get any oil on it as I work on the engine. So far I've figured out there are quite a few problems with this engine lurking in the background, and the first one becomes apparent as soon as I remove the bolts that hold the cylinder down. If you look carefully, you will see that both of these slots in this bracket have been elongated using a needle file. This is to allow the cylinder to be moved around, forward and backwards. And this is no big deal really. Using a needle file just to move the position of a hole that you've drilled in the wrong place is fairly common. I've done it myself on many, many occasions. And there's nothing really wrong with it. It will allow for some adjustment as well. It's better though to put it in a milling machine and actually mill a slot rather than use a thing like this. With any engine that gets hot, it's better to make sure you have a little bit of float so you can adjust things, because if everything was perfect, then you're going to get things seizing up. And the good news is none of the bolts are sheared. They're all making very good contact with the threaded holes in the cast iron base. It's time now to remove the cylinder cover. I'll just give it a wipe with the cloth to get rid of all the oil residue, and as you can see, the bottom two bolts are countersunk bolts. That's to allow for the bracket. And thankfully both of these countersunk bolts came out very easily. This is not sometimes the case. Sometimes I have actually had to drill them out on engines like this. The next thing to do is to remove the cylinder cover. The engineering standard of this engine is very good, so the cylinder cover is quite a tight fit into the cylinder. But it's no match for my old craft knife that lives on the bench. A quick tap with my hammer, and I mean a very, very gentle tap, and the cylinder cover is loose and very easy to withdraw. And once I removed the cylinder cover, it was very easy to remove the piston, although not quite as easy as the cylinder cover. The piston's actually well machined and quite a tight fit. Normally with a Stuart Models Victoria, or a twin Victoria, the piston is fitted with a cast iron piston ring. But as can be seen in the current clip, this engine is not fitted with a cast iron piston ring. It's fitted with a strange looking black ring. Now this could be a Viton ring, which would be okay, although personally I find Viton to be quite abrasive, or it could just be an ordinary common garden neoprene ring, which is fine for compressed air but not too good for steam. I don't really want to put this back into the engine, because as you've just been watching, it takes considerably more time to get at the piston in an engine of this type to change the ring, so I think I'll change it before we start. The piston is to a good size, 1.5 thou under full size, which is 1 inch. But I don't know what the cylinder is, I didn't machine it. But it's a good fit in the cylinder, even without the piston ring. So tomorrow I'll go up to Blackgates Engineering and see if I can get either a piston ring or a steam grade silicone ring to suit the piston. Taking a look at this cylinder cover, there's plenty of meat on the recess part that goes into the cylinder, so I'm going to machine some of this away. And what you've just seen is the way that I centre it in the chuck. I put the part in the chuck and tighten the jaws slightly and then press the piece into position with the tailstock chuck, and this makes sure that it runs true enough to be machined, and as you can see it's running quite true enough for this job. Once I got the cover true in the chuck, I did of course tighten the jaws a little bit more. I really would not like this to jump out of the chuck and fall into several pieces. So I take quite light cuts, I didn't go mad, and very soon I've taken half of the amount off the actual cover. So now we probably have about 1/16 of an inch more travel on the piston, which is really all we need, because that was about how much it was unscrewed on the piston rod. I don't really need to do this, but it's something that I generally do. Once I remove the part from the chuck, I clean it up using a bit of oil on some 180 grade wet to dry sandpaper. This just removes any burrs from the edges and cleans it up. It's surprising, if you do this for quite a long time on this piece of sandpaper, the part gets very shiny, and if you work down the grades of sandpaper it gets even shinier. Having a look in detail at the piston rod tells me that the piston rod is okay. When I feed it into the cover through the gland, everything feels good, especially when I apply a drop of oil. It's very smooth. It's not unduly scratched, and this is fully serviceable. Finally, in this episode, I did an A-B comparison between a neoprene ring that I got out of my stock and the neoprene ring that was in the engine, and I found them to be the same. So it's up to Blackgates tomorrow to buy some silicone O-rings. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.